see better, shoot better is kind of an idea that came out as we were doing the critiques, and it just kind of rolled out of my head, and I got to, I had an instant once where I met and photographed Annie Leibovitz, and I had to, I was intimidated, I was nervous, and this was a long time ago, 25 years ago or something. I was at the Breeze, and she said, "Gosh, you journalists, you photojournalists, you newspaper people must see pictures all the time. You're constantly seeing pictures. I would find that so exhausting." And I hadn't really thought about it before, but on the way home that night, I got to thinking that, yeah, I do see pictures. And I think that everyone who makes pictures does. They see them in their heads. They live a life that I think is much more visually rich than those who don't. I think it's it's like a beautiful fringe benefit we get when we become photographers. When we start to see pictures, we start to see the hues in the time of day that most people pass by. I've been at red lights, and I'll watch tableaus at a bus station or a bus stop of how people line up, how the light hits them, what moment's going to happen. It's all kind of preconceiving, trying to predict a picture, trying to see something that may eventually come there. And I think all of us have that within us. And I think that's a treasure that we really need to embrace, and we need to constantly grow in order to make better and better pictures. What I'm going to do here is kind of wander through some pictures I've shot over the last few years and kind of tell you about them, and tell you why I shot them that way. This is from the Olympics in China, 2008. This was one of the big moments for Michael Phelps because he was going for his run of gold medals, and he was losing. It was the individual medley relay, and they were losing when the guy in the water hit the water. And that's Jason Lezak. And Jason Lezak lives about 5 minutes from here in Irvine. So that's mainly the reason I was in Beijing, was to shoot people from Orange County. So when he saved the day, it was the picture that everybody in Orange County wanted, and because it's Michael Phelps, it's the picture everybody else wanted. But it worked out well. The TV guy didn't come out and mess up the background. It was clean. It's a nice moment to flex. I used to have a body like that. Never. But it's one of those things where it all just works out. The lane rope doesn't bother me. Some guys who weren't quite as low, that rope went right through his face. And that's unfortunate. So there's a lot of luck that comes into this as well. So you can plan, you can look for and conceptualize what kind of picture you want, but luck still shows its hand every once in a while. We talk about light a lot in here and looking for it. And I remember in this particular play in 2007, it was yet another, no offense, Matt, Angels lost to the Red Sox in the playoffs. And I remember saying to somebody, boy, look at that background there. Wouldn't it be great if something happened at home plate? And I swear to goodness, it was like 2 or 3 plays later that happened. And it was just one of those beautiful things. And you're stuck in a certain spot to make those pictures, and sometimes they just work out for you. This is the first day that I got a new D3 from Nikon, because I was on my way to Beijing, and they were issuing people who were going to the Olympics with D3s, and that was the night this happened. And it was a big night for Kobe, probably one that we're not going to see again, but this was a big night. I think he'd scored like 40 points or 45 points in the first half, and this was at the end of the half, and he just ripped his shirt. This is what we talk about when we say shoot through the play. If you're shooting to see if he made the basket and you see if he got at that, you're going to miss this. Follow the play. There are timeouts. There are lulls in the action. There are definitely times when things are not happening that you should be shooting pictures. Think of details. This is just a tight shot of someone on the pommel horse, and it gives you place. It gives you anticipation, the hand just about to reach for the ring. No background. It's just clean. It's a nice way to just a detail picture that invites you in and gives you information about what you're looking at. Subtlety, knowing the story. These two tied for the gold medal for some decision that's beyond my pay grade, and because it was in China, the Chinese girl won. which didn't sit too well with the American girl. But she was known as being that kind of a hothead, pouty kind of, before the last pouty gymnast from last Olympics. This was the pouty from China, and she did that for that long. I mean, it was just, she just made that face, and then she was back to smiles. So you got to kind of know what to expect. You have to anticipate. You have to look for, you have to know the story. You can't just react to everything. You have to give yourself a little bit of an anticipation, a little bit of a head start on what may or may not happen. And you want to be ready for it. And that way it worked out really well for that. I came out of a hockey game out of the Honda Center, which is not too far from here, 6 months before this picture was made, and I saw this movie theater across maybe half a mile away, and their marquee is this. And I remember telling myself, boy, it'd be great if there was a moon in there. And then I went to my car and went home. 3 months later, 4 months later, they said, we need you to go out and shoot the harvest moon. Do you know any place where that might happen? I said, yeah, I might have that. So I went over to the riverbed. People who are familiar with the area, I went over to the riverbed, sat there, and just watched it rise. So instead of the moon sitting there, you give it context. You give it some kind of special way for people to look at. So again, understanding what you want, look for where you're going, see better, shoot better. This is one of the most fun assignments I've ever had. This is called the Eddy, and it's a surf contest that they run in Hawaii at Waimea Bay. And it runs from just about Thanksgiving to just about St. Patrick's Day. And if they have a surf that's going to break 25 feet or higher consistently, they have a list of 25 surfers they call, and they all have 24 hours to get to Hawaii and surf it. By the end of the day in this contest, waves were breaking consistently at 50 feet, and there were guys out there surfing them. The best part was, after the contest was over, all the locals who didn't have the jet skis and didn't have all that other stuff were paddling out to battle them. But in this case, when that happens, the whole island surrounds this bowl, this natural bowl. It's like one of the most incredible stadiums. And there's traffic jams all the way up there and all the way back, because there's just one highway that runs around the whole island of Oahu. And it's jammed, and the people are packed in, and he disappeared for must have been 5 seconds. This is Kelly Slater. And all of a sudden he comes out and he raises his hand and pumps his fist. The whole place just roars. It was fantastic. Unfortunately for some guys, I was the guy who didn't really have any deadline responsibilities, and all the New York papers and New York guys who are shooting for the wires and stuff had shot the first heat. Kelly was in the second heat, and so they're all moving pictures from the first heat, and I go, God, did you guys see that? And they looked up from their computers, and I realized I kind of put my foot in it. I said, oh, yeah, it wasn't much, and kept going. You know, just reacting, good action underneath the basket. You know, I wish he was more of a player. I wish he was someone of iconic note, but, you know, he's a new coach. We'll give it to him. But it's just a nice, clean action. It's just nice, well-timed action. A lot of times you're too soon, you're too late on these things, or someone's stepping in front of you, or you got a hand, some guy's got a hand up. This just worked out really well. I've always liked that picture. I think I was at that game with Wally. There was the All-Star game at Angel Stadium maybe 5 years ago, probably longer now, the wait time, 5. And they said, do you want to cover the home run derby? And I said, I'd rather not. I'd rather shoot people catching the home run derby balls. I thought there was a picture there. I thought they'd make a picture there. And so I haunted the outfield bleachers with a 600 and just kind of waited for the ball to come and see what happened. But I really love these kind of tableaus of people's faces all in a common moment when everything's kind of brought together. And in this case, this little snow cone of a catch where you see the ball, and there's even anticipation in that. But this little kid down at the bottom just makes it for me. What a gamer. What a gamer. You know, maybe it's going to fall my way. Maybe it's going to fall my way. You know, 2 years from now, he's going to be slamming that guy in the stomach with his elbow. But right now, he's got hope. He's got hope. Well, there's that great picture of Michael Jordan's last shot in Utah. And I can't remember who shot it, but he's making this shot, and the ball's released, and everybody in the stadium is standing. and it's strobed, so you got everything's illuminated, everything's sharp, and everybody's standing, and all the Utah people are like this. And there's one guy with a Bulls uniform or a Bulls jersey on like this. One guy out of that sea, and it was just this great picture. Of course, he made it, and they won the tournament. But just to see the sea of faces is always kind of fun for me to look at. I'm afraid I'm going to be known for my whole career for this picture. But it gets such a reaction from folks. This is the first contest, surfing dog contest at Huntington Beach. And now it's turned into this huge, suntan lotion, all these sponsors, all these tents and all that stuff. But the first year, it was really kind of fun. But I found this ugly dog on the beach who happened to be from Orange. And I said, I'm just going to follow this dog and see what the hell happens. And fortunately, he just jumped off. He's jumping off a surfboard with one of those spongy surfboards, which is the blue thing. He's got this orange jacket on, which is like a life preserver. And he's got this little thing that acts like a cape, but the stress in his hands. And his eyes are just like this. I love that picture, and people love it. So there's worse ways to go. This is a fellow who I wrote down his name, as a matter of fact. This guy is Mamadou, and he is 7'5", and this is when he was playing in high school. And this is one of the first games we photographed of him. So this is 7'5". Just look at his hands on the basketball. This kid is 5'5". So you're trying to make ironic, visual, humorous, smiley, determination. You can almost put that on a poster, you put in some executive's office and say, determination, against all odds, that kind of thing. But it just shows you how big this man is. And he's currently playing at UCI. I think the Times just did a story on him and how they're pinning their hopes on getting back to the tournament on Mamadou. Sweet guy. I don't know if the kid ever survived that or not. I was given an assignment to photograph an opening game of football last year for the season. High school football is starting, and they wanted something different. And I thought about a remote picture. I thought about something where the teams are coming together and, some kind of benevolent, team, sportsmanlike kind of picture. And I thought, well, they do that before the game, and it's beautiful time of day. And those first 3 or 4 games of high school season, it's just gorgeous. You get this beautiful, wonderful, warm light at the end of the day, and then it turns into this beautiful mottled light. It's really pretty. So I just took a remote and I slid it in there and fired a few frames and pulled it back out, and this is what I got. But it was all kind of thinking before you get there. And I got there early to talk to the refs, to make sure it was all cool. I talked to both coaches on both sides to make sure it was cool with them, and it worked out really well. I focused on their face masks so that their faces would be sharp. The hands are maybe a little soft, but you can't tell because it's such a wide picture. And sometimes you just get lucky. This is just a basketball play where I didn't even know I had this until I was chimping. And I found this. It's just that split second where his nose gets smushed. No foul called, and on with the game. But just one of those moments where you just shoot, and sometimes it just happens for you. I did not pay this goalie. He did it completely on his own. And then, as the whole team came together, he got up on his knees and put his head down. So it was like winner, loser, all in the same picture. My thinking on this picture was that most of the time from overhead, I'm shooting with a 400 millimeter, which is kind of tight, but you really kind of need it for action. But as they went into the overtime, I had brought up a 300 and went looser on it, and it gave me more time to react to the moment. And that's why I made this picture. This little goober down there at the bottom of the frame, they had so many hands coming up like this. It was lucky that I picked a spot overhead where I was shooting over a tunnel entrance, the level below, so there was nobody there. So when everybody put their hands up, there was like a little window for me between the hands into the net. All this is things you need to think about. This is how you need to see in order to find the moments that you want. You got to kind of know what you want and then plan around that. See the eventuality of what you're looking for. This was in Ducks season. This was a clinching goal in overtime by number 10, Corey Perry. And I like this because you incorporate the fans in with it. Just nice moment, just Jube. Overhead position, you make best with what you got. And sometimes it just happens for you. That picture of the Kings was overhead, and most people want to be on the ice. So what you get, you've got to make do, or you got to make something come of. That's on you to make a great picture out of where you are. And grousing about it isn't going to help. Again, knowing the story. This is a new quarterback. He's called Josh Rosen. People in LA or California know about Rosen. He's called Rosen the Chosen because he's been groomed to be the starting quarterback. This is the first touchdown he threw, first touchdown pass he threw of his career. And I just told myself, no matter what happens, stay on Rosen, stay on Rosen, stay on Rosen. And sure enough, something happened. You know, normally your reaction is to go to the person with the ball and try to get the Jube, lifting him up or whatever. But I just told myself, stay on Rosen, because the only picture that's going to come out of this game, come hell or high water, come win or lose, they're going to want a picture of Rosen. So I stayed on him, and I was rewarded for it. Guy picked him up, put him down. So I got 3 frames, just 3 frames, and it was done. But you knew what to look for. You were anticipating. You were a step ahead. These are pictures that I like to find, and I get to a football game early, particularly in those first 3 or 4 games of CIF season, because the light is just so pretty. You can just make pictures all around, and they're really fun features. They're different features. I just thought this looked like some kind of specimen, some kind of, zoo that this is teams in there. And it's a look into a locker room that you've never seen before. And that caught my eye, and I made the picture. And, it's not much because it's you. You want to make that picture. It becomes something. And we all can see, but we all should be getting better all the time seeing and understanding and looking at other people's pictures and understanding why, Wally made that picture that was so good and he did that. And okay, maybe next time I can do that. Or Matt Brown does this. And, there's no harm and there's no shame in that. I look around, I keep a close tab on my peers when they make pictures, and I look at them. I look at them all the time. I find people I respect. Most of them happen to be instructors in this workshop. And I look at their pictures, and I try to learn from that. And I think you should too. And this overhead, again, there's a lot of, now that I look at this critique-wise, there's a lot of overheads. In this case, this is the second to last batter of the Dodgers, and you can shoot that picture quite often of guys hanging on the rail in the final outs and looking dejected, looking bummed. But the overhead gives you a little bit of a perspective so you get the crowd in there as well. And I think it kind of gives you, again, I like the kind of wide, tight pictures, and then you have a lot of head scratching, head down, guy got his finger down the bottom there. There's just a lot of kind of peruse and look at. All right.